As part of our November 2014 cover story, Andy Hanasek sat down with Steve Phillips, CEO of seafood processors Phillips Foods. The two discussed environmental initiatives undertaken to preserve the aquatic resources of the Chesapeake Bay.
Thanks for joining me today, and thanks for having me out here. This is a very peaceful area. We've got a boat rolling in, we got a jet going over. It's usually a lot quieter, but this is still pretty awesome. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about some of the sustainability, environmental steps you've taken, initiatives, things along those lines, because, national news-wise and, in the industry in general, the Chesapeake Bay, the watershed, always seems to make headlines, and, especially with ag and everything. So talk to me about some of the things you guys are doing at Phillips to help preserve and conserve the supply of crab and seafood in the bay.
Well, it's not so much maybe what we're trying to do. I think we've taken a leadership role in a lot of the sustainability initiatives that as it pertains to the crab industry. One thing we're doing as an industry, we're trying to get together with Virginia and a lot of the other, North Carolina, South Carolina, a lot of the Gulf states to really form a crab processors association, and really look at, working with, I've done a lot of work with the blue crab hatcheries. To really see if we can erect several hatcheries along the Chesapeake Bay where we can release young megalopa, young crab back in the natural environment. And I'm not saying that replaces rules and regulations, it certainly doesn't, but yet that's giving Mother Nature a helping hand. The crab has 1.5 million eggs in its egg cluster, and 1 or 2 only survive to maturity. And 99.9% of those eggs die when they're released, die within the first 3 to 4 days because of 2 factors. That's number 1, bacteria in the water, and a lack of a food supply.
Okay.
So in a hatchery environment, you can really give Mother Nature a helping hand, and we've proven that we can take 1 female crab that has 1.5 million eggs and actually produce 800,000 crabs from that 1 female.
Wow.
So it's a pretty impressive situation. And people that are against seafood hatcheries or a crab hatchery concept, I'll often say to them, I said, how many wild chickens do you have in your backyard? Because I certainly don't have any wild chickens in my backyard.
Right.
The hatchery system has certainly worked for the poultry industry, hasn't it?
Yeah.
So, why can't it work for the seafood industry also?
Sure.
But I think we just have to form, it has to be an industry approach, not necessarily an individual approach, and I just hope that everyone will support, giving that a try, because I think it could make a tremendous difference and impact in regards to the population densities of seafood and especially the Chesapeake Bay or any body of water.
Yeah.
I know that we're currently doing that in Asia. We formed crab processing associations in Indonesia, Philippines, Thailand, India, a lot of the other countries. We're working with a group called Sustainable Fisheries Partnership as our third-party NGO, developing fishery improvement programs for all throughout Southeast Asia. And part of that fishery improvement program is the erection of hatcheries, which we currently have, what we're currently doing in Asia, and it seems to be really helping in the areas where we have these hatcheries to provide sustainability not only for the crab, but sustainability, for the fishermen and their families.
You mentioned the hatcheries, and I know, like in the sport fishing world,
right,
you have trout hatcheries, and they've, obviously done really well for themselves. What's kind of held back the crab hatcheries from, I would, as someone who's not a waterman, I wouldn't know necessarily, why those maybe haven't taken off as much as, say, a trout hatchery. What's held it back?
Well, I think every species is different.
Yeah.
The crab here in the Chesapeake Bay goes through 8 larva stages. The crab in Asia goes through less larva stages.
Okay.
The food system, you've got to develop, grow algae to feed rotifers, and, you've got to develop the feed system. Of course, it's very different for a crab than it is, say, for a trout. It's very different for a trout versus a chicken. So,
yeah,
the science has to be done. I really think that, the seafood industry really needs to use science more in really trying to address some of these issues with sustainability and those factors. We got to get the science done first, but then we have to get those programs implemented to really make it effective.
the scientific level, are there universities that have really good seafood, science programs that you work with?
Yes, in the state of Maryland, we work with the University of Maryland, the Biotech Center,
Okay.
and also the environmental studies.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a brilliant scientist there called Yanni Zohar.
Okay.
And he's very passionate about the program. And he's worked very hard to complete the life cycle of the blue swimming crab in the Chesapeake Bay. So he currently has a hatchery set up, a crab hatchery set up in Baltimore, believe it or not.
Wow, okay.
And has been very successful with it, and we plan on creating a series of hatcheries along the bay to help, give Mother Nature a helping hand. As I said before, it doesn't replace rules and regulations. It's another piece of the puzzle, I think, to solve an ongoing problem.
Well, Steve, I appreciate it, and I appreciate you having me out here. It's an eye-opening process, and it's a beautiful area. So thank you for
Well, we
having
call
us.
Hooper's Island God's country, so welcome to God's country. It is a beautiful place. I don't think I appreciated it as a boy. I certainly did. I really appreciate it today. I mean, it's a piece of heaven to me. I just love to come back home.